for me to guarantee at this point to have a successful town, here's how it needs to be set up.
Yeah.
Very challenging. There's just too many variables.
Welcome to episode 20 of the Mirandus Farmer's Almanac. I'm your host, Xana, and in this episode, the challenge of making a successful town is exactly what we'll be digging into. But before that, we take a look at a few of the topics in the recent interviews with Michael McCarthy, and some of the questions that might arise in those interviews. Then, at the end, we explore some features in the Mirandus Farmers Discord that is trying to empower not only deed and building owners, but the community players as well. Alright, let's listen in. Hey y'all. Hope everybody's doing okay. We were doing a series on all the buildings, and we were just kind of speculating and theory crafting and kind of wrapping it up as like a suggestion to the team, and they could kind of pick and pull ideas. I don't know if we had ideas for them or not that would work or not, but it was still fun to do. And it's, you know, after listening, hopefully it left you with like, oh wow, that would be so cool if it could do stuff like that. And we'll continue that series. I'm thinking next time we might do weapon shops, armor shops. I think that'd be a fun one to do. But in light of these two interviews that came out, the first being from On-Chain Gaming, and the second one, Paul Barron, if you didn't know that one existed, with Michael McCarthy. I'll be sure to put like both the links for those in the description below if you didn't know. And I don't want to go over these with you. You know, you can watch them. There's other streamers or YouTubers out there that kind of recap everything they're talking about. I just pulled out some clips from things that like I had concerns or questions towards, on top of I feel like people need to understand the realistic expectations for when we can expect to play this game. And man, these videos have brought in a ton of new people into the Mirandus discussion, like the Gala Games Mirandus Discord. A lot of new people, a lot of new names, a lot of the same questions, a lot of repetitive questions. And I hope we're answering those as best as we can. There's so much information for these poor people to get caught up on. There's like the whole buildings on deeds thing. Like there's a guy in there talking the other day about he wants to get a tent and take his tent out to the woods, but it's like if he has his tent, what keeps him from monsters from like coming to kill him in his tent? I'm like, look, they need to be on 5x5s, they need to be on deeds, and just, you know, information like that. I hope that, you know, you buy these things and you don't know. I guess this is where due diligence comes in, but you buy these things, and I just hope these people know what they do, what these assets do, and how the game kind of works. And man, it'd be nice where, I don't know. That's hard. It's repetitive. It's forever, right? These people, new people coming in forever. I just hope we're always educating them. But anyhow. Realistic expectations on when we can expect to play this game on chain. Like, I'm trading you NFTs. I'm finding NFTs. We're swapping material. How long is that? And I pulled some videos out, or rather some clips out, that kind of explain this a little more. And then there's, you know, questions within those clips. But let's just start with the Switch first, because the Switch is very important. We're going to be doing an insane amount of testing, before they actually flip the Switch. And he gives the best description in this video.
From Patreon supporter Blockchain Bullfrog, he's curious if McCarthy is willing to answer. I would like to know more about the development flow / milestones. Are they going to release a beta, and will we be able to play to earn in it? Or are you planning to let us wait until most of the game is developed? And then let me ask this follow-up thing as well before you answer.
Yeah.
He says they can keep releasing items with new features, for example, boats, but everything requires extra development time. So what's the vision goal for the initial playable beta?
Yeah, there's a couple things you're touching on there. So first off, we're on Discord a lot, and we've talked with the community a lot about this, and I feel like we can develop this game in any way that people want. But man, I feel like the Mirandus fans have been completely clear. They want this thing to get to market as soon as possible, and and the trade-off of that is that the world and the amount of zones that we will be able to build will be small. The world will be tiny, but you'll be able to play it sooner as opposed to later. The other thing we can do is just go dark for years and years and years and build this big massive world, and and at that point the world will be pretty large and everyone can jump in and it's great. But I feel like, I don't know, I think our fans and the people on Discord have been really clear about this. Like, let's get it out sooner rather than later. And if that means the world is small and there's not enough space to put all our deeds and buildings, there's not enough, that's fine, man. Just get it out there. Let's get it in our hands. And over time, we'll extend the content and create more and more and more zones. So that's how we've been going about it and developing. On beta being play to earn, this is I call it the switch, flipping the switch.
Okay.
What that means is that we have to develop this game. We do need a beta period where things are not on chain. And Jason can speak to maybe what some of that strategy is too. I think we would probably have a test network that we could set up. We would need to have things operating on chain prior to letting people just own all of the things to help us track down bugs, because this is a game that needs to be secure and it needs to be bug free, more so than any other game that I think I've worked on in the past. So the switch is when suddenly it's all live in your hands and on chain and it is yours to do with as you please. And I think we will need a beefy beta cycle to make sure things are functioning before we flip that switch.
So the switch, how long till we flip that switch? That's a question. And then how much testing do we need? Well, we need as much testing as we can get. There's going to be an insane amount of testing. I expect, well, I'm hoping that we get these quarterly tests. I'm hoping there's a point where it's like the zone has been made and it's just constantly on, right? And you're constantly playing the game and it's like on a testnet server. You're just testing the game, right? I'm hoping it all gets wiped, right? Because there's other concerns there on that as well. As for the beta, so the question becomes, when do we flip the switch? And probably the realistic answer is when it's ready to be flipped. It's funny because I was watching some videos the other day about MMOs and creating MMOs, and they were talking about how hard it is to make an MMO. And then the time it takes to make these games could be like 6 to 7 years. And then the game comes out and there's some disappointment. It's 6 and 7 years of creating a game and you get disappointment from the players, and then it just kind of flops. And that sucks to put that much time into creating a game for something that doesn't turn out to be that popular or doesn't make it as well. So, testing these games, and we don't have much room for disappointment, especially with flipping the switch when you got people's assets online and on the line, and making sure everything works. And it's got to be it's got to be a fun game. It's got to be a great game, and I'm okay with taking as long as it needs to be to flip that switch. If we don't like things, it's great that they're building with us. They're talking to us. We don't like this. It's like, all right, they would fix something like that. At least I believe that. But let me play the Paul Barron clip, and he kind of gives you a time frame of when when the switch would be flipped and when the beta's coming out and how big it might be, or let's just play. It gives you the best one.
It's our desire that next year we have quite a large number of zones and dungeons that players could do and explore. So I'd like to see us in beta, if you will, next year, towards the end of next year, is what I would like to see. And what is very difficult about being blockchain is, when do you flip the switch? And that's what we call it. We call it flipping the switch. In a traditional game, you can tune around anything. And because you can claw things back, you can have bugs, and we're pushing a fix for that. And, that's what you see every day when you log into an MMO. Here's the changes we made. With blockchain, we have to be really careful. We can't have certain bugs that, certain exploits be in the game. So everything has to be tested very, very thoroughly before we can flip that switch and say, okay, now everyone come into this world, and, when you kill this creature, there might be a rare drop of a ruby, but you're not accidentally going to get 10,000 rubies. Oops, we have a tuning error. So, that moment where you flip the switch and players can come in and everything is living on chain and they're owning their own content is a big moment. And we're going to have to do a lot of testing before we get there.
Yeah,
so I would see, I could see it absolutely being, 6 months or more of just that kind of integration and testing.
So there you go. A lot of testing. So what's that look like for time frame? So if we add that up, I know we're having a play test at the end of this year in December. I don't know what that play test is going to be about. But he talks about the 2 or 3 zones made up, and playing a beta at the end of next year. So that puts us at the end of 2023. And then flipping the switch could take 6 months or more. So you're looking well into 2024, and possibly you can even top into 2025. And we know how long it takes now to make these MMOs, and the time and the careful testing you want to be doing on top of that is very important. So realistically, okay, we can get into the game and start interacting with our assets and trading and NFTs and all that great stuff, on-chain stuff. So now my questions and concerns kind of come down to a lot of the deed placement, or how we switch from a test server to flipping the switch. So does flipping the switch mean that we're wiping every progress that we've done in the beta test? All right, we're dropped on the beach again and we start all over from all our beta testing. So we kind of know what the world is. We know where to go. I don't know how those things will work. Those secrets are unlocked because of the beta testing, or maybe they add in new secrets. I don't know. But one of my other concerns was the deed placement. So a lot of people have been holding deeds for a long time. And they want, when the game launches, they plan on placing their deeds. So now, even having 2 or 3 zones, you're still limited on deed placement, I think. So I'm just have some concerns with how people might feel about not being able to place their deeds. I feel like that would be upsetting to a lot of people, but I mean, if you want to launch the game early without a full map and everybody can place their deeds, I kind of understand that too, that people want to get that out there and they want to kind of play that game. But here, let me play this video with Jake where he's talking about this kind of first come, first serve. So is this first come, first serve, is this beta, or is this when the switch is flipped, or is there a wipe? And we don't have to worry about this. And then those zones that he does have made, is that enough for everybody? or not. So let's go.
Placement is we can't have people putting towns everywhere. That would just look awful. So
There's just one zone, and it has like, I'm just picturing
just there's nothing left. It's just a flat plain with
all the buildings
that no one goes to because there's a million cities, and it's bizarre. And then, there's also dynamic terrain deformation and stuff that we want to avoid. So what we do is we pick places in every zone. And currently the leading thought is that a zone is about, a kilometer by a kilometer, let's say. And, we pick places for deeds to be able to be placed. Mm-hmm. And it is true that the first player that comes there and places that deed, they did it. They managed to make it to that location, and they placed their deed there. And yes, the game will be when it's released, it's not going to have room for all of those deeds. So it's going to be a bit first come, first served. But there is a dynamic, again, having this just be a world. Where do you want your deed?
Mm-hmm. And the Switch might not be turned on at this point either, right? So people might be placing their buildings without the Switch on. So it's like, oh man, I didn't get to place my building. But it's not like you're losing out monetarily because of that.
That's right.
At the end of that, I'm pretty sure Jake meant deeds instead of buildings. But here's the hardpoint questions or thoughts. If the beta testing server is wiped with the Switch, meaning we start all over again from the beginning on the beach, did we gain any progress from playing the beta? And progress could be as simply as a Materium grant, where we were able to earn Materium or was able to stack the magic for the game. Or as simple as, some of the items from the beta test that, you participated in it, you were here, you did it, and maybe you got like the next drop onto the beach, you get to start with a sword or a shield or both, I don't know, or something. Or was it for nothing? And I don't want to say it was for nothing, because the data that we give in the team and to ourselves is more value than probably any of those things, because it's a head start. So what's working, what's not. The team knows what's working, what's not, what needs to be changed, what's not. So I don't want to say it's not for nothing, but it'd be cool that there was some sort of progression when the Switch was flipped. The other question is with deed owners. So it sucks that the land rush happens again, right? So maybe there's some more zones this time when the Switch is flipped. So from the first time when the beta started, we were just in a very small area zone of 1 or 2. Maybe we have this time 2 or 3 or 2 or 4. And it would suck not to get that spot if you got it on the beta, because you worked, you spent so much time leveling up your deed walls perhaps, and working with your building owners and doing strategies with deeds, and maybe working with other deeds and working with your building owners. And then this round, that's just all gone. And now the game's real. And now you're just an adventurer waiting for a spot to get a deed. And so, there's some value in, if that happens to you on the beta where you didn't get that deed spot, you were the adventurer. And so you kind of know how the game angles, because it's 2 different games here. I mean, the player's kind of deciding, do they want to run a business and do these deed ownerships and running these buildings and doing that? Seems like a lot of work, man. So you seem like you don't have a whole lot of time to adventure. But, the adventure is going to have a lot more time for exploration, making maps, doing all kinds of other stuff that, building and deed owners don't do. So, it's a give and take there. Don't feel too upset about it, because your time will come if you have a deed, as zones get implemented into the game and more spots become available. But, I can see a lot of people getting upset because they've held this deed for so long and then the Switch went live and you didn't get a spot. But try not to be too upset if you're a player of the game and you're looking for the adventure. And I feel like there'll be still a lot of opportunities for that, but I don't know. I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of people that would be really upset. But all right. So when McCarthy also said there's like a dynamic of like where you would want your deed. I think that no longer matters. You just know you want a spot. So you're not trying to where do you want your deed at? You see a spot, man, you're going to take it, man, because it's limited as a deed owner. So as zones get created, land rushes will still continue with each zone that opens until everybody has a place for their deed. Until we hit that spot where now we have options, right? Now there's options to put your deeds in different places and without the worry of like, I don't have a spot to put my deed. So that's when the dynamics hit. And a lot of the strategy can begin like for people that don't have rather than people that have multiple deeds, they can maybe take that risk of getting all their building owners off their deed and moving their deed close to another one of their deeds and setting up like a strategic base. And, this stuff kind of takes us into our next topic of, what to expect in being a successful deed owner and having a successful town and even having a successful building. Because these things are going to be so important in this game. You don't even, I can't even, listen, take all this with complete speculation. I'm completely speculating with this, with all the info that I've gathered over the year and a half I've been paying attention to this space. So this is just absolute complete speculation. I love talking about this stuff. And, that's what this channel's about, is just how to take all this, the little bit of information that we get from the Mirandus team and just kind of spinning it into what it could be, what we can expect out of it. But this is the stuff I'm coming up with. And it's funny because from the Townstar Master, who switched his name to Mirandus Master, this kind of makes sense. So for perspective, let's say you're playing Townstar. Well, that Townstar map that you have with all your stuff, cut that in 4 squares, right? And those 4 squares are 4 different deeds. And to make that town work and function, you need all those pieces to work together. But you only own 2 of those pieces. And those would be your 2 deeds, right? So the guy next to you has the other 2 pieces. How are you communicating with these other deed owners to make those deeds work together as a whole in a territory? So that's some really tuning stuff right there. Now at the end of Jake's video, he touched a bit on that about, how much, grain do I need to feed this stuff. And McCarthy talked about tuning, and we'll learn that as we go. And as a developer standpoint and how we just kind of get to there, what is needed. But there's things that we can do now. And the thought process of how we can use our deeds to work together kind of begins that cycle. For instance, owning a farming hamlet. You would want farming buildings on there. That deed is producing a lot of crops. Where those crops go after harvest is the first question. They're either going to storage or they're going to process. Now the question becomes, what do you want your deed to do? Store or process? Or both? But both may mean that is all your deed is doing. So who's the buyer after the process? This is where buildings matter on the next closest deed. Are you supplying a ranch, possibly feeding the animals? Maybe the ranch is you're feeding animals and he's doing sheep and you're doing cotton. And you do as a team, you go to a bigger town that's helping tailor with a weaver that's still making whatever weavers make. Or perhaps that larger town has a tavern, maybe a brewery or a bakery. And are those deeds working with you and your renters? Or are they working with the other farming hamlet that's doing the same thing as you? Or the two farming hamlets doing the same thing as you? Maybe this is what McCarthy was talking about with dynamics and where you place your deed. Maybe there's too many farming hamlets when there needs to be a ranching hamlet. So either you're going to have to adapt to the territory's needs, swapping buildings to serve another purpose, or you're going to need to move to where you're more needed. And this can pertain to every deed. Say you're a large town near the mountains. You might be thinking to rotate around forging due to all the nearby mines. That means you're going to be creating a lot of metals. Does the next deed over solve the issue if you can't process it into the final item? Or are you able to process it into the final item? And then are the buyers there? Then there's the question of responsible building owners. Are you renting a critical building in the production line that can keep up with the demand? Or are you both the deed owner and the building owner that can't keep up with demand? We know we can give allowances to our buildings, but those workers you hire, are they willing to craft and work for you to purely stock your inventory? Maybe. Are you providing them with the exemplar or do they rent it? What are they making? And will it end up being worth it for them in the end? These are all great questions in unknown situations we will find ourselves in. And we'll find out in the beta as well as when the switch gets flipped if they work. But no matter what, it's always good to have communication channels for what's around you. One critical building going away could affect a whole zone or a large group of deeds. So what's the best way to open up channels for communication? First off, I think having a Discord or a Telegram, some kind of group chat for your deed is going to be key in communicating with your building owners and them with their key holders or the allowance permissions for those buildings. I would also like to talk about Miranda's farmers a bit, or at least some of the channels trying to be built in there to help serve everyone with some informational tools. This could give you more perspective on some of the things I'm thinking, how we can work together for everyone's success. This is highly experimental, and I'm not sure how well it will work in the end. In a way, I'm trying to poke holes in the developers' models, kind of see what can work or what cannot work. So let me transition over here. All right. So this Mirandus Farmers Discord, I guess you could say this is a guild. Although, we have no game yet. I don't know what these guilds exactly do. I mean, I see that there's like jewel crafting guilds and mining guilds, and those are kind of obvious, but how do these guilds work? I don't know. So I'm building things, at least in here, that are community based, like tools, hopefully that everybody can use, even if it's for your guild or not. But anyhow, let me show you what I mean. Obviously this is general chat here, but up here, so we'll start at the top with trade and logistics, and I use a CollabLand bot, and what this is a read only bot. So it kind of reads what's in your wallet and sees it, and then assigns a role to what it sees in your wallet, and then gives you that role. So, but to see this channel, obviously, is you have to have a deed of an outpost or higher. So the deed owner collaboration channel here is this is just for deeds to talk to one another if they want to neighbor together or kind of work together, kind of sorts. And then below that is deed and shop collaboration. And this is where maybe shops are looking to place their buildings on deeds, or maybe where a deed is looking for a specific shop. And then they can kind of interview these shop owners and kind of, make collabs here, right? You get the gist of it. I don't want to go too far off topic here, but I see a lot of shop owners already collabing with deeds or looking to collab with deeds. And just a note that I think is important is if you get a plot with this deed owner and you make a deal, just remember that you have to find this deed in the world. You just don't hook up with it. So, from the interviews with McCarthy were talked about being dropped on a beach, right? Well, this deed owner's dropped on a beach too, and he has to find a place to put that deed. And you as a building owner then need to find that deed somewhere out in the world. And, is that deed owner waiting for you or not? And, just something to take away from that, and just to remember that you have to go out to the world and find this plot to put your deed on as a character in the game. But anyways, this is what, deed and shop collaboration. Then there's the deed and dock owner collaboration. And this is more for, deeds that are on the water or close to the water, and a dock is looking to be close to a deed just for specifically for their boat owners, or for the boat owners to maybe you're moving merchandise or product. And this is just a way for those dock owners and deed owners to kind of collab together if it's possible. Then you get into the boat and docks, and this is where, boat owners are searching for docks that may be high trafficked and kind of setting up their trade routes, whether they're taxiing people, like what's the most docks that are the most popular for taxiing people, or moving products from here to there, wherever. So, these channels here, they're a bit obsolete at this point. I mean, they're more for when the game comes out, and you can use them then, or you can use them now, but, they're here and they're ready for if we can use these. Like I said, this is very experimental, so I'm hoping we can use these, and we probably can at some point in the future. Mapping and discovering the world is going to be a big challenge, and I'm hoping to poke holes in that a little bit, but let's move on and we'll get to that. Whole data, this is super. I think this could be a super useful channel. This is just collecting data, right? This is just, so for instance, what's the closest area you believe pricing should be for a 5x5 farming plot on a monthly basis? I made most of these on a monthly basis, and this just kind of gives some pricing data, like an idea of like what people's willing to pay, what people's willing to charge, kind of find that average there, and just kind of give a pinpoint to when the game fires up, what should I be charging for my deed plots? Like, nobody's going to have really an idea of the value that they're. I assume at the beginning of the game it's going to be the highest prices in the game because the demand's going to be there. It's like, oh, I need to get a spot, and who knows what this will be. I'm hoping this tool kind of helps out, that everybody can just kind of like use this, and they can readjust as we go on what they believe they're willing to pay or not willing to pay, or just some data there for somebody to take away from and kind of get a sense of what the value is or what people are willing to pay. I think down here lower I have, you can pay rent based on the sales percentage rather than a flat rate. And, also, would you rather take your payment in Gala or Materium? Obviously, everybody loves Materium. But yeah, I hope these polls can really help people discover data, maybe get some price discovery too as well. And even if there's something that's not here, ask for it, man. We'll put it up here. I'll try to. I don't know. At this point now, it's not really too useful, being that we still have no game. But you know, just I could throw out reminders for people to adjust their thoughts again and reevaluate the polls, or say that there's new poll data here. If you need some kind of data to make your deed successful, we'll just throw up a poll and everybody can kind of like give their opinion on what they think. So there's a lot of stuff we can do with polling and try to get some kind of data out of it. So I think that's a really useful one. Mirandus Scholars. This is something Play for Passive wanted to set up. And I think everybody knows what scholars are. And if you don't, then it's just, say, somebody that doesn't have all these assets and they're just looking to earn in the game and kind of make something. This is where they can go to maybe find some work. Maybe you have like deed owners and they're like just running all the buildings and they just can't keep up. There's no way they could keep up with all that, and they're looking for workers or a deed manager even to just kind of help them in all this. This is kind of a place you could go to look for work or find somebody to help you, or either or. So still not really very useful at this point in the game since we don't have a game once again. This one's really cool, and I like this one. Is the deed owner's Discord and information. So these are read-only channels that a deed owner has permission, like full permissions of their own channels to kind of edit and give information on their deeds. I think an announcements gave a good example of this. So this is just an example. So of information pertaining to your deeds. So obviously you can see, you know, what's the price for farming plots. You got your building owner's information in there. How much is your building owner selling their product for or their services for? Yeah. So you can have just any kind of information. Actually, we can just look at, okay, this is actually mine, and it's like super sloppy, right? And there's a lot of NAs because, you know, we don't know what this stuff can go for, but just some stuff here that you can see giving information out on these deeds. Like buildings needed. Like I have buildings, but I don't have a lot. I don't want to run a lot of buildings. I'm looking forward to playing the game a lot and not spending a lot of time just like working buildings all the time. So, you know, I'm running out a lot of the spaces. And one of the buildings I know that I'll need is milling, I think. So, you know, you're able to throw that information in there. It's like, oh, if a guy who owns a milling building, he can jump in here, then, you know, jump into the Discord and is interested in the plot. He can see all the pricing, you know, knows how much it'll cost for a plot on here. And then what other buildings he might be working with if he does get a spot on that plot. Location, that's a tricky one. That's another one that trying to poke holes at. We know that cartographers are going to be making the maps. And, you know, a lot of the talk in the beginning was like, you know, oh yeah, cartographer makes the map, and yeah, I'll just buy the map and then I'll screenshot it and then I can post it up, and, you know, kind of like a hack of, but I don't think the game would allow you to do that. I don't think developers will let it happen that way. What's the point of owning a map then or selling maps? But, you know, if that is the case, I guess you could just post your map there and there you go. But I think they'll be more interactive. So what I mean by interactive is like that you need the game and the map to find the location. So it'd be like, you know, you open up your map, there it is, you have a portion of the map maybe, and there's a town up there on your map, and you click on the town and you can like click go there, and maybe it's like a GPS zooms in and like follow the blue line. I don't know. Maybe there's a little directional arrow right there, kind of like guides you to go there, like acting like you're using the map. So some sort of interactive with the game, I think would probably be what they'll do, but what's the hole that you can poke in that is maybe you start off at a landmark, Citadel of the Sun, for instance, and you just make a video tutorial on YouTube on how from the Citadel of the Sun to get to your deed, and then you can just post a link there in locations, and then somebody looking for that deed, or you got a building owner, it's like, okay, yeah, you made a deal and you got a spot and you're going to that deed, and this is how you get there. I don't know. Yeah. So just anything really that you want to give information out for your deed is available here. So Everglen is one of the Town of the Marquis, and he just come out public with his deed. So any information that he wants to throw out his deed here, I can see on his image that he's got a bunch of these filled out. I don't know if these are buildings he's running, or is this what he wants on this deed, or his makeup, but kind of gives you an idea what maybe these are empty and they're available. I don't know, but you could jump into and ask for information if he updates the link. Here's Spooky's. Spooky's going to put something in here. I don't think he has yet. Obviously he hasn't yet, but Spooky's big on he's big with his deed. He's big on charity. So charity is just another, he could throw information here about the charity supporting, and that's kind of a different aspect and kind of a cool aspect you can add into the game. So it's like my daughter has type 1 diabetes, and say my deed wants to support a charity with type 1 diabetes. I would say a portion of my deeds, the revenue my deed brings in, like a portion of the profits goes towards this charity or this foundation or something like that. And it's just another informational part. Could be a great selling point too. It's like, oh, I can go to this deed and buy my sword there, and then my sword is like supporting this great charity, or just something cool. It's outside the box kind of thinking. It's a good idea on Spooky's half, but he can post that kind of stuff in there. So all these I'd really like to see this like get really filled out, like with tons of different deed owners and their read-only channels, and have all kinds of information, their links to their Discords or their group chat, whatever they're going to use, and then have all that information in there, and then you can just see merchants coming in and retail arbitraging, like looking at all these prices, and maybe a lot of price discovery, right? It's like bread over here is like 5 Materium, but bread way over in this zone is like 3 Materium, and we can kind of like gauge with these tools like what the honing in of an average of price is, get kind of price discovery and what we should be charging, and just kind of learn from each other. I don't know. I just think these are just great tools, and I don't know if they'll work or not. That's what I'm trying to do here. This is all experimental, so we just got to roll with the information that we get at the time. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got on this. But if you want to jump in here, and if you got polls, or if you got deeds and you want access to some of this stuff, just hit me up. And just it's all about making everybody the most successful that they can be in this game, and help everybody with tools that we can all help each other with. But that's pretty much all I got. So I guess until the next time, I guess we got to continue on with our buildings. And I really want to do the armor shops and weapon shops next. We'll see though. But until next time, I guess peace out.